Hey y'all, so we're with our last video from To Be African. We're going to do a 2-for-1 since this is the last video and they're like really short. But I hope all is well. And yeah, to be an African home shul. African is spelled with a K for this one, but it will be, anyways. By Malimu a Bomani Baruti and Ya Mauzwi Baruti. If I pronounced that incorrectly, please correct me, and I do apologize for pronouncing incorrectly if I did. To be an African home shul is to open your home to our children. It is to provide an alternative to the public schools and the majority of independent schools that offer varying degrees of miseducation of the Negro. Oh, I'm so excited for 2025 and all the books we're going to read. It is to refuse to accept our children embracing this diseased society that demeans traditional African values. Like, think about it. When you go to public education, they value individuality, capitalism, violence, competition rather than like cooperation, patriarchy, racism, like, right. While promoting materialism, individualism, and immorality. It is to daily de-Westernize and re-Africanize. It is to have limited resources yet be committed to teaching math, science, language arts, and social studies while instilling African history, culture, and values that are priceless. It is to teach the practice of always thinking, planning, and acting from an African reference point by asking, would the ancestors approve? In our specific example, it is to choose a name, Akoben, the Adinkra symbol of the war horn, which represents a call to arms, summons to action, readiness, and volunteering. And motto, we remember our ancestors, that give focus. Oops, y'all, I messed up on something. I forgot to do something. Gmail, let's open that up. Okay. That gives focus to our mission of continuing the struggle to educate our children in the ways of the ancestors. I need to sign up for this, like, what do you call it? Black psychology thing. To give focus to our mission to continue the struggle to educate our children in the way of the ancestors. In other words, to be an African shul is to create, maintain, and defend a place where our children can be anchored from aimlessly floating around in a sea of insanity. It is to give them the direction of a historical map and compass that leads them towards African-centeredness and keeps them off the path of European values. We must clearly recognize our children's vulnerability. We, and only we, can make them strong enough to withstand the hypnotic calling towards corruption that constantly bombards their minds. They must be free to be African. But they didn't, breaking the psychological chains of slavery, that's what that reminded me of. But they cannot do that while being tossed to and fro by the misdirecting waves of another's society. They must have a safe area to play in, to learn in, and to freely express their Africanity. To do this, we must be consciously African without question and without fear. For our children, being African is not possible in a reality prepared for them by Europeans and Negroes. And think about that. The term Negro. Yes, I do have Black Marxism out. I'm typing up my script. Girl, I'm working. Hold up. I think I passed it. Come on, baby. To be a Negro is to be without culture, without this, without that, without history. This was what? Page... Wait. Let me find it. Let me find it. British capitalism. Rebellion? I thought it was in pink. No, I don't know. Ah! I passed it, I think. If we don't, girl. Hold up. Okay. Oh, this Negro. Oh, haha. It's not in pink. Negro. This is chapter. Get back in the page. 4? No, 3. I think it's 4 actually. Yeah, it's chapter 4, page 81. Negro, that is the color black, was both a negation of Africa and a unity of opposition to white. The construction of Negro, unlike the terms African, Moor, or Ethiopi, suggested no situatedness in time. That is history or space, that is ethno or political geography. The Negro has no civilization, no cultures, no religions, no history, no place, and finally no humanity that might command consideration. Okay. Only menticidal Africans fight to have their children miseducated in the hands of their enemies and those who think like their enemies. Only we know what is best for our children, and as African parents who unconditionally love and want nothing but the best for our children, we must ensure a safe and communal space for their minds, hearts, and bodies to develop in an African way. We must think deeply about our mission and responsibility to correctly and without compromise fully educate those who will continue the recreation of the African nation. We must understand our commitment to re Africanization for what it is total, without fear or doubt. We must keep our children in the safe and empowered classrooms of our homes, exploring a whole truth and reality beyond the grasp and mind of Europe, for they are our re Africanization. We cannot allow the youngest generation of warrior scholars to be dragged into the abyss of this chaotic anti-African Western cultural wasteland. That would be unforgivable. An unforgivable sin against the universe and ancestors we answer to. As we pass from this existence into the judgment of the next, how can we justify a perpetual compromise served that served to re-enslave our children? How can we betray the culmination of all that is African? Finally, to be an African Shule is to take on the primary responsibility of directly connecting the past with the present so that the future lies firmly in our children's African minds. We must pass on the teachings of Diop, Finch, Clark, like John Henry Clark, Ani, Ben, Arama, Nkrumah, Rodney, Jackson, Houston, Carruthers, Fanon, Ahmad, Amadium, Amadiume, Garvey, Wright, and all the others who fought and are fighting for Africans so that the wisdom and knowledge of our elders and ancestors become a living part of our children's consciousness and mission. Eat it up, eat it up. To be an African Teenager by Adowa Foluk Baruti. To be an African teenager is beautiful. It is beneficial to teens, Africans everywhere, and future generations to come. Today, many believe the life is the European lifestyle, although it is simple death, destruction, domination, sickness, and immorality. But the true life is the lifestyle of African, which represents Ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness, order, reciprocity, harmony, and balance. We can only imagine how the ancestors feel whenever a lost African is found. They probably feel joy and have high hopes that the new African will never be lost again. Well, teens must stay African and become more African every day, because to be an African teenager is to know that we are very fortunate when we are raised to be strong and revolutionary. First, without a doubt, African teenagers are privileged. We have a lot of Black books in our homes, and we attend community events that are helpful to our people. We are taught that African clothing and hair are beautiful so that we know that we do not need Western outfits or chemical texturizers, relaxers, weaves, or extensions. I will say to that point about hair, I think of course, we can look at how the internalizing effects of racism and colorism play into the way that shape the way that Black women do their hairs and how hair and how it might be a form of assimilation or rejection of their identity. But I also would like to think about hair as a form of self-expression. The way that Black women and Black men can embody any hairstyle, girl, like that's amazing in and of itself, you know? And so I feel like there can be nuance, but within that conversation about hair and self-expression and how women choose to do their hair, 100%. But also, no, period. Our parents take us to lectures given by conscious people. Therefore, we get to meet dedicated people whom we should look up to. We also are fortunate to attend African-centered schools that focus on our history and help us to embrace our culture through African drumming, dance, and language. Moreover, we know that we are African young men and women who should create African families, so we need African-centered mates to help build an African nation. Oh, should I talk about the contributors? They have like their information. No, keep going. Secondly, with privilege comes responsibility. Therefore, African-centered teenagers have to be strong and keep our eyes on the prize, because there is so much peer pressure out there, since African-centered people in America, spelled with 3 Ks, are a distinct minority. Youth especially get peer pressure from others who dislike our hair, clothes, and name. Some even say that we are too Black or dismiss our families as crazy, so we need inner strength to not give in to negativity. This strength will prepare us to become revolutionaries who fight for the liberation of our people. We have been taught who the enemies are, whether they are Europeans or Negroes. Our preparation includes studying organizations like the Black Panther Party for self-defense, the Mau Mau, and the Maroons. I don't know if I said Mau Mau correctly. MAU. We also study revolts, their leaders, and their strategies. Furthermore, we definitely study the lives of people like Malcolm X, Assata Shakur, Queen Nzinga, and Marcus Garvey for inspiration. Finally, it's not easy being an African teenager, but there are disadvantages and advantages to every situation. Fortunately, our situation has many more advantages for us, because we know that African people are beautiful and intelligent, and if we pull ourselves together with our ancestors' help, we will win. The first shall be the last, and the last shall be first. Yeruhu. Freedom! Did I say that correctly? No. 1 second, let's look it up. I thought I was saying that correctly all my life until I realized that I didn't when I said it out loud. I thought I was saying it correctly in my head. Pronunciation. Thank you.
Uhuru.
Why?
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Oh, no.
Uhuru.
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 Why is it saying it like that? Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Yeah, I was saying it right. Anyways. That's the end of To Be African. You can get this book or look for other books around this topic from www.africanworldbooks, African spelled with a K instead of a C, africanworldbooks.com, and it's distributed by the African World Books in Baltimore, Maryland. And let me read the back, since we're at 14 minutes. We could not be Africans and slaves at the same time. We could not hold on to our African identity, our African selves, knowledge of our African culture, and be enslaved, the subordinates of another people. It is only when the knowledge is removed, erased, degraded, stolen, taken, and distorted that we lose our identity. Amos N. Wilson. We must make ourselves whole again. We must restore and renew. We must look into the open Mafa wounds, grieve and remember those lost to us through miseducation, collaboration, and those who resisted. As we conquer our oppression, we give ourselves permission to follow the Sankofa bird and look deep into the well of our own culture. We don't glorify the culture, we use it. We will create ourselves out of ourself. Nana Bafor Amankawatia II. Okay, thank you so much for being here and listening. I hope you have a great night and a happy new year.